Hello Graham. I'm here today to ask you some questions about your art because I'm very interested in it and your paintings. I have a question to ask about it. Why do you use ultramarine colours and other bright colours in many of your paintings?
Because I want to make my paintings brighter than reality, as bright as nature, and not to be outdone by anything in the world. I want my paintings to be the brightest thing possible in the world.
Your paintings look very dramatic, very spontaneous, like something's happening. It doesn't seem very like peaceful, not in light with nature. It's very dramatic, as I said.
An expression of being alive in this busy city. Luckily we're on a quieter road so we can chat, but we've just come from King's Cross, which is like a junction which stirs anxiety in most of us, and my paintings reflect the anxiety that I feel living in this busy city.
What made you decide to come to Hackney Wick?
I was lucky enough to have two artist friends that were talking about the place. We both had studios here, so having visited the place, I instantly felt a connection to it. Their studios. One of them offered me to share their space, and that was at the top floor of the building we're still in, which is the building in the Queen's Yard. It had an elevator gallery at the top in the main section of the 5th floor, and my studio was along the corridor in the attic.
Hackney Wick is very popular for art. There's a lot of graffiti behind you, as one can see. It shows it's a very artistic place. I'm just gonna look at the graffiti because it's amazing what I see behind you. Has this been an inspiration for you, the graffiti behind you? Has it been like this 14 years ago?
This particular piece looks quite new, but just generally, the action of painting outdoors, people spraying night and day here, a lot of the walls are covered, so there's a sense that it's kind of a playground being for street artists. And that's an inspiration looking out the window. From my building I see artists spraying, and that just adds to the creative atmosphere of the place.
Are you interested in maybe creating a piece of work with spray paint graffiti art?
Yeah, I could spray a wall or something.
What sort of thing would you create if you use spray paint?
Probably would recognise my stuff because of my style. It could be a head or something like that, sprayed in the same way that I would paint with acrylics, like I have done in performance art, or it could be like a geometrical kind of construction, improvised, coloured in with spray paint.
Has any artist inspired you about this new subject matter about intimacy with couples and things?
Yeah, I appreciate Robert Mapplethorpe's photography. I think he was a brilliant photographer. He was very technical, and he achieved beautiful and shocking images. So having seen his work, it sort of inspired me to be a bit more daring and seeking images which are truly representative of what excites me. And he, as well as other photographers and painters, I'm thinking now that the photographer from the late 19th century, he was somebody that's inspired me with my style. Painters, Ernst Ludwig Kirchner has been a painter I've looked at for a long time. His expressionist paintings, some of them are quite distinctive, styles vigorous and raw. We talked about Matisse yesterday, his large nude being an inspiration. Picasso, the way he fragments and distorts figures in his very fluid style, improvised. There's some of the inspirations.
With these new ideas, what medium do you think you'll be using in order to create your next piece of art?
Good question. I do want to work in oils, but I think acrylics might be useful too, because the quick drying process might lead to some sort of fast, somewhat mechanical kind of application of paint, perhaps through stencils and stuff like that, and printing it onto a canvas. That could work possibly as like the first layer of paint, and I could work over it in oils perhaps. So I'm going to try some combinations, but ultimately I like the finish of oil paints. The glossier the better, sometimes the thicker the better too, so I think we'll get a variety of results from the new canvases I seek to make. When asked about my inspiration for the nudes that I'm making at the moment, I failed to get the name of the photographer that I had in mind. That was Edward Muybridge, or Helios as he was known. the prolific and pioneering photographer that I think invented the animated photo. He managed to use tripwires to trigger the cameras, and most famously captured a horse running or galloping with this technique. Apparently he produced around, I think, 100,000 images in about 11 years in the 1880s, around that time, 1878 I think it was, onwards to about 1888, approximately around that period. He was so prolific. But yeah, his dramatic photos, capturing a figure in motion, these precursors to cinematography, were unique. I think there may have been one other photographer that was doing similar work, but I still think probably Muybridge was the first. So I thought I'd mention him, as well as Modigliani, a painter that I went to see his show at the Tate Modern, London, back in, I think, 2018. It was his nudes in particular that struck me. It took me a while to appreciate his work, but that was one show I couldn't miss. So having seen the show, I did make a very rough oil study of one of his paintings from an old postcard. So I'll show you a few of my pictures, the first of which is a Modigliani rough oil study. Yes, just a painting quickly done in reference to his nudes, and this one was a study of the flesh, the way that he uses different tones of similarly coloured hues to try and achieve a kind of attractive flesh finish. Mine's possibly ever so slightly more textured, not quite as smooth as his, I don't think, and my skin in places is overly orange, I think, but I enjoyed painting it, and I wish the eyes were as good as his, but they're not quite there. But the only one I've done of his, and something definitely that helped me to form my own aesthetic for my nude paintings.
I'm very interested in the painting Red Blue Head. It has no title. Who is the person in the painting?
It's nobody in particular. It's just an improvised head painted live to an audience, with the band I was with doing their jazz rock set and me joining them on stage towards the end of their performance.
The head looks like an African mask. African masks were used to represent spirits of the deceased ancestors and also to ward off the dead. Was African masks an inspiration for you to create this piece?
Probably subconsciously. I mean, I was teaching in a school at that time, and one of the major projects we were doing was studying African masks, and so they're probably that sort of style and format of using exaggerated forms for a face or a head probably filtered into my mind when I was painting it, and that's the result, is that it is quite a larger than life kind of head, somewhat similar to the African masks of the tribal people that, like you say, repel the spirits of the dead.
Also, what do the symbols mean around the head?
They're kind of cosmic symbols that just I spontaneously brought about during the painting. They're kind of spiraling or circulating the head somehow, giving a kind of balance to the composition. There is a heart there somewhere, pink heart I think, that's kind of distorted, some sort of organ, and there's also a definite sort of quintessentially shaped heart which has an arrow going through it. So they're less cosmic, but they also sort of float around too, and giving the piece kind of some sort of added meaning that I was sort of just working through when I was improvising that night.
How did Andy Warhol inspire you? Because his art is pop art, yours is completely different from that genre of painting.
Well, I think you can see that his use of vivid colours is the thing that's inspired me. A lot of his paintings also have gestural marks to them, particularly his works in the 70s. He did the Chinese former president Mao. He did some series of paintings in which were gestural. He did these works to do with the New York nightlife, and his subjects were very energetic. You know, he portrayed them with these gestural painting marks. So it's not pure pop art. It wasn't all about print. It was also about freedom of movement with paint. But look at the walls here.
Yeah, I can see it's very very bright, like your colours you've used in your paintings, the blues, yellows. Yeah, kind of reminds me of that, a very spontaneous feeling.